man, history to me is kind of what your foundations build on, and,
Right.
and that gives you the look to the end of the tunnel. Now, if we look down the end of the tunnel, we really don't know what that light is.
No,
It's
it's
different.
the truth. And I always say a bar is a snapshot of America, right? The second public building ever built in America was a bar. The
Right.
first was a church. There were no town halls or city halls or meeting rooms, right? Business was done in bars.
Right.
So bars are a snapshot of America. When you walk into a bar today, loyalty to product is different. Loyalty to all these things are different. And it becomes much more of a eclectic
Right.
type of a place, which I guess is what America's been.
This is No Excuses with Jon Taffer.
Art Sutley is the editor of Bar Business Magazine.
Yep.
And years ago, you and I were competitors.
Yep. I launched probably about 12 years ago.
So when you launched Bar Business Magazine, I was running the nightclub and bar.
Correct.
We had our own magazine.
Yep.
And back then, I used to view you. It's funny how business changes. I used to view you as a competitor. So remember, I didn't let you guys come to the show.
I do remember that.
I
Actually, I
didn't
remember that conversation very well.
And I said, I'm not going to share my audience with Bar Business Magazine.
Yeah.
I'm nightclub and bar. So over the years, the B2B magazine business was tough.
Yeah.
And could you get what percentage of B2B magazines you think hard magazines are gone? Probably 60, 70%?
A lot of them. The ones who stayed in the real hardcore niches and did the right job with content were able to survive.
Yeah.
You don't have those 5 competitors in an industry anymore. You really have to control it and be one of 2 guys.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's a tough business. So many people want to get into content today and think the content business is easy. You've been doing this for 12 years. You've got a great brand, and it's still a fight
Agreed.
to keep engagement and keep people's eyeballs all the
Well,
time.
you have to. It's an evolution, right? So you can't look at it just like a print magazine. We have to be something so much more than that. And that's how I kind of position myself as, a hospitality person in the industry. I'm not just a publisher. I'm out there in Wall Street Journal, in other magazines, talking about trends. And I think that's the difference. If you just sit there and try to say, I have a magazine and I'm a publisher, you're dead in the water.
I completely agree with you. So when we were, quote, competitors, and I didn't let you come to the show and stuff, at some point, NCB got to a point where, I said, you know what, let's open this up to competitors. And then we completely changed the relationship. You started coming to the show, promoting the show, and that's still the relationship that you have. I always thought that was an interesting thing, and I always look back at those years, and I think to myself, boy, if you sell widgets and you have a dinner party, do you want to invite your competitor who sells as many widgets as you do? So the question becomes, do you want to invite that widget guy to meet your friends? And wow, maybe not. And that was the way we did it back then. But then at some point I realized, wait a minute, I want to invite that other widget guy because I want to meet his friends. He can meet my friends. And, if his friends like spending more time with him than me, shame on me. And things started to change.
Yeah, I remember that call very, very well.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. They said, Jon Taffer wants to talk to you. I'm like, what did I do now? I'm thinking, I haven't gone to the show. I'm just doing my own thing over here, trying to have the best magazine in the industry. And then after that, agreed. It was instantaneous. We knew where we were going to take this, and we could work together to do some amazing things.
And we became great media partners.
Absolutely.
So, I've been making my bar rescue. I'm now, this week, I'm shooting in Albuquerque right now. I'm in the middle, actually, and I came home for a day. And they're remodeling right now as we speak, so I'll do a reveal tomorrow. 184 of those suckers. Can you believe it, Art? And you remember the beginning.
You're just on track. You're going over 200.
We are, yeah. So the network just signed 28 more for next year, so we'll hit 200 around
Congratulations.
March.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. So
Well-deserved, too. Well-deserved.
Thank you, buddy. But you know me from before TV. So, you and I have been in this business for a long time. What trends do you see? Let's talk bars for a couple of minutes. First of all, I had to do this, and I don't do this often. Bernard and I have a couple of Bloody Marys in our hands. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
And this is Taffer Mixologist Bloody Mary Mix. And I'm so proud of this stuff. I've never done this on a podcast before. I've never had a guest drink my product. But you being in the business, being my buddy, knowing each other so long, I had to share my Taffer Mixologist Bloody Mary Mix with you. Now I'm going to put you in the corner. What do you think?
All right. Let's give it a taste. It's good. I like that back end spice a little bit. This is a smart product.
Thank you, buddy. I've worked really hard on it, but I felt that it would be appropriate that you and I had a Bloody Mary while we
No,
were
plus I
talking
love
today.
Bloody Mary, especially a good one. So this falls into that category.
Well, I'm proud of this. This baby's got some kick, and this is my Taffer Mixologist product, which a lot of you know is in Walmart now. 4,478 stores. That's a first for me, Art. And to think that I'm selling thousands of bottles a day of this stuff is remarkable. So last week I went to a Walmart. I said I'm going to sign some labels, just for fun. So I signed some labels. Corey was there, my producer. We shot it on video. And it was freaking hysterical. People coming up to us, they wanted the product. People went into the store to try to look for the signed labels and stuff. I've never had so much fun with something. You know, and it's almost when you make a new issue of a magazine, and, you know, you're proud of everyone. I know you are.
Yeah.
But there's a particular one or two every once in a while that you get this emotional gratification from.
You know which of those are? Those are the blood, sweat, and tear ones. Those are the ones that were the hardest to get out. But when they come out, you're like, all right, that was a home run. Now I'm proud of this. This is pretty amazing.
You know, Funny Bar Rescue's that way. The greatest episodes are the most unpleasant to do.
Yeah. Well, the one you put me on was pretty wild, too. Yeah.
You were there. Art has done recon on a bar rescue, got to hang out on set. Was that interesting?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it was interesting to see because we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
And I did visit a set a few years back, which was in Portland. Lisa Marie was the bartender. I was just showing up for the
rock bar.
Yes, it was just the reveal, and it was really funny. I was just sitting at the bar and, you know, going through the drinks, and, you know, no one's really you're doing your thing. No one's supposed to really interact with you except the staff. Well, you stopped and you were like, hey, Art, how is it? And everyone around next to me was like, wait a minute. Are you on the show? Are you a hidden plant? I'm like, no, I'm just a friend. I'm just coming to hang out. So I got to see the end. And then to be on it from beginning and then coming in for the reveal, it was amazing. I mean, I see how many hours that you put in and your staff puts in. It's daunting when you first look at it on paper. You're like, when do people sleep here?
Yeah, it's amazing. So my remodel crew, we started last night. I did stress test last night. So I spent time with them, finish all the design elements and stuff. I flew home last night. All day I'm getting texts of the logo to sign off on and all the final furnishings and all that. So they started remodeling last night about 11. They'll work all night. They'll work all day today. They'll work all night tonight. And then tomorrow at about 7 o'clock tomorrow night, I'll do the reveal. And it's an amazing team. But it's no different than your team when you're on a deadline and you got to do something. And you know, the sacrifice becomes a choice. You get 2 or 3 things, good, fast, and cheap.
Right.
You can get it good and fast, but then it isn't cheap. You can get it good and cheap, but then it isn't fast. And whatever the third one is, it's that too. But your business is that way too. You can't rush good content.
No, and in between trade shows, I'm doing 22 trade shows a year where I'm either speaking at, appearing at, having the magazine at, but I'm at all of them. And that's part of the contract with these associations. So I'm doing that traveling while running a magazine, while also, you know, meeting with bar owner and operators after hours that are close friends that are asking me questions about the industry. So I wish I always had more time during the day, but you can never sacrifice quality. No. I'll never put a magazine out that I'm not proud of or a cover that I'm not. I mean, I love my art department. I have sent back covers and I'm like, you know, it's just missing something. And it probably the reader would think it was a great cover, but my problem is I'm looking at a couple of them.
Right.
And I won't let that sacrifice it. If they don't see the other 2 covers, and they might think this one's great. No, if I don't think it's top notch, it doesn't go out.
Well, your name's on the cover, so to speak.
Yeah.
It is. It means your image. What are the trends you see now in the bar business?
So what I'm seeing right now with this type of drinker, well, the first thing is bars are all elevated, which is great. And the customer is elevated behind it, which is so cool. Because sometimes that doesn't happen. The bar is trying to pitch one thing, and the customer's like, yeah, I'm not ready to go to that level. You know, I sit in a bar now, and I hear customers talking to the bartenders, and sometimes I think they might be industry. And they're not. They're just customers that are very enthusiastic about history, about the spirit, the type of drink, the bar that we're in. So I see that trend that everybody's growing. But when it comes down to like types of drinks, I'm seeing lower ABV being a little bit higher because I think the new modern drinker wants to also participate in daytime drinking and then also nighttime imbibing. And the only way to do that is to do more kind of like session beer or low ABV drinks. You know, obviously, you know, we've talked before. I mean, the seltzer business, spike seltzer business is through the roof. So I think we're seeing these trends from these new, not millennials, but younger drinkers that want to do some daytime drinking.
You know what I find, and this is more of a sociological statement that relates to bars too, and you know I study bar behavior big time. I'm almost a nutcase about it. Millennials today, and younger people today, and even guys like you and I today who don't quite fit into that category, we survive today with this concept of instant gratification and relevancy. And I've said this before on this podcast, but if you woke up this morning and took the worst picture of yourself in the worst outfit you have, with your hair a mess, unshaven, I mean, this is the worst picture you've ever taken in your life. Yeah. If you posted it, Art, within minutes, somebody is going to say, looking great, buddy.
Yeah.
and you're going to get all this complete bull
yeah.
of, gratification and relevancy and
right.
all that. And it's bullshit. Because, in fact, it's a lousy picture of you, and
right.
you're looking the worst you've ever looked in your
right.
life. So now what happens is we post something, we say something, we do something, we get instant relevancy. Now, when I go to a bar, if I want to be relevant, I got to know something. So I got to talk about a product. Oh, this was created by the Sutley family in 1497, and
right.
so now I'm relevant.
Right,
I'm cool. I know enough to get myself in trouble, probably.
Correct.
But suddenly I know everything there is to know about the Sutley family because I drink Sutley beer, and it makes me relevant.
Right.
And what I find in bars today, and in so many business environments, is everybody is more self-serving than ever before. You see, I don't go to a store to support the store. I go to the store to support my own relevancy. We used to have loyalty to brands.
Sure.
We used to have loyalty to stores. Think about all the people that walk past McDonald's to go to Shake Shack. Think of all the people that walk past the Budweisers, the Millers, all these legacy brands.
I know, it's tough for them.
You and I grew up with these brands.
Yep.
When you and I were younger, we migrated towards those brands. Right? They were in our soul. We grew up with them, so to speak. Today, that connection means nothing.
No, especially if it was your parents' brand, there's a total disconnect. They actually almost want to go away from that. And that was what I saw my grandfather or my father or anybody else in my family drinking or a product that they had. It meant something to me as a kid as I elevated and grew up.
Me too.
Totally different ballgame right now. They, matter of fact, want to turn their back on that and say, I need to find a new product that's different that nobody else knows about, that gives me relevancy to know it. And that's their elevation in their brand.
And you and I are exactly alike. My father drank Crown Royal. Mm-hmm. And every night he'd have himself about an ounce of Crown Royal, and he'd sip it in his rock glass. So the first alcohol I ever drank was Crown Royal. And that was the way you and I grew up now. So when you think about it, because this generation is resistant to the past almost, it puts every legacy brand at risk, doesn't it? And you think about the Tanquerays today, and I won't get in any trouble from my sponsors, but you think of the Tanquerays today that can sit on that bar. Every bar's got to have Tanqueray. Sure. You can't have a bar without Tanqueray. Right. But you're not picking up that green bottle 100 times a day anymore.
No. They're starting to get dust on the shoulders, some of those brands.
Yeah. So the challenge in our industry is selling legacy brands. And I find that fascinating. And then I look at how beer is down so much and craft beer numbers are down so much. I read an interesting report the other day. I think you'll find this fascinating. And it was from a big banking equity group. Pay a lot of money for this kind of data. And they were talking about the word craft. And according to their, multi-million-dollar global research, the word craft put in front of a beer reduces the potential sales of that product by 3% today.
Interesting.
You put the word craft in front of vodka, it increases market potential by 4%. You put the word craft in front of whiskey, it increases it by 7%. So I think the beer industry sort of screwed themselves by saying craft, craft, craft. Not all of them were so crafty, were they?
No, not at all.
So I think about 50% of them sort of suck, to tell you the truth. They're not necessarily the best beers in the world.
No, and I think they all blitzed the market. And I think there was too much on the market at too much at the same time. And at the same time, the drinker was starting to change. And I think that part of the industry got really hurt.
I think so, too. So when we take a look at all of these trends and the word craft and how all this means, at the end of the day, you nailed it, buddy. It comes down to this self-relevancy. And if I'm going to drink a Bloody Mary mix, if I hate Taffer, if I think Taffer's, the low class, then there's no way in the world I will drink Taffer's product, no matter how good it is.
Exactly.
Could be the world's greatest reviewed Bloody Mary mix. You ain't touching it.
Nope.
On the other hand, if you love Taffer, You'll drink that Bloody Mary mix even if it's just so-so.
Yeah.
So, my view is make it great, attach my brand to it, and see what happens. My point is this. It's so emotional today, Art.
Yeah.
And brands are so fluid today. How do you manage through that? You run a business where you have to deal with content. You have to have promotions all the time, promotional partners all the time. You have to be able to create new distribution areas to get your content out.
Sure.
Then you have to manage your advertiser relationships and your budgets. And advertisers today aren't running to advertise in hard magazines.
Sure.
How do you get through that today? It's a tough dance, isn't it?
So it's a tough dance. I mean, I think the liquor brands still love print. They still love their big full-page
Those
ads.
beautiful ads.
Thank God to all your liquor brands out there for
Yeah.
your full pages. But I think they haven't. But I think the startup has changed. They don't want to jump into print first, so we have to grow them. So we'll do things like maybe make a video with them, or we'll do some emails for them. So a lot of the digital marketing aspect. One of the other things that my publishing company as a whole has started, and I wish I could take the idea, is my brother's idea. I wish I could totally steal it, but it was his. We're doing circulation calls. We're signing people up for the magazine. If we don't hear from you in a year, we got to call you.
Right.
We just don't keep you on the list.
Yep.
So during that call, we're now having sponsors come in and sponsor 4 questions after they finish signing up for the magazine. And we're starting to give them industry data back. What type of bar do they have? What type of music are they using in the bar? Is it a jukebox? Is it a DJ? Is it a live band? So we're gathering this data for sponsors and giving it back to them. So we're changing, we're evolving. The full page ad and the ads in the magazine, they're there. And because I go to so many trade shows, they're a must. But you have to have these introductory products because print is expensive.
Sure the heck is. And also with digital, you know your results, you know your click-throughs.
Correct.
It's easy to monitor. But, I used to find when I ran magazines, you do a print ad, when you get the ad printed, they like the ad, whew, done. Now with digital, how many clicks did they get? How many did they get this week? It's like the pressure's on.
Yeah.
We've got to deliver now.
Yeah, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why an ad just didn't perform. It could have just been that day. I mean, they have a great product, and their results are maybe 25% different than a guy who sent it out 3 Tuesdays before that.
Yeah.
And it could be their message. It could have been their subject line. So there's so many more variables on the digital front. So we really have to think through that. And one of the services that we offer is if we see something, we'll tell the client, say, hey, you shouldn't rub that subject line, no good.
Right.
And we're very upfront about that. And if you're going to partner with our magazine, we want to make sure that the success rate is as high as it can be.
Of course, you really look at them as a partner, and you really want to deliver.
Because some of them maybe are coming from a different vertical and have a product that could be applicable to the bar and restaurant industry, and they're just getting their feet wet in this. They don't know how to talk to the modern-day on-premise owner. But we've been doing it for 12 years, and we try to insert ourselves into their marketing department just to say, not telling you what to do, but just a gentle tap on the shoulder. I think you should reevaluate that.
Consider this idea.
Correct. You have to be very gentle because they're coming to you and they're they're my client.
Yeah.
You don't want to, push them too far.
When you go online today, there are services. Sign up for our app and we'll edit all your videos for you, make you look like a pro. Then you click on, there's another service. Podcast One, my podcast network, has a service where anybody, Joe Blow, can create a podcast. They'll create it with you. They'll work with you. They'll put it out there, blah, blah, blah. So at home, little Joe Blow can make his video, post it, get it online. Little Joe Blow can do his little podcast, right, and produce it and edit it and get it online. Little Joe can write his little white papers and get them online if he wants. And Little Joe can do, Little Joe can write all this content, and Little Joe can get it out on YouTube and Instagram, and all of these distribution platforms are out there. When you and I started in this business, there were no distribution platforms. It was just content, and how the hell do we get anybody to read it?
Correct.
When you think about today's world of content, massive amounts of content out there, some not worthy of a second of our time.
No. Some fake news.
Yes, a lot. Yeah, fake news. A lot of fake stuff too.
Right.
People acting like they're not. People's Facebook pictures are really not their persona at all.
I actually have a story about that. Have you heard of this company that you can hire as a male or female that they'll put you on a private jet? It's parked. They'll put you in expensive cars, and you get all these pictures in different outfits for your Instagram. So you can make your Instagram look a little bit more out there than it truly is. And that's mind-blowing to me because that's straight up not even being you. That's you fake cultivating an audience.
That's like the guy on Match.com who puts a picture of himself 30 years
Yeah.
ago. What happens when you go out for the date? I mean, what the hell do you say then? I mean,
How do you even respond to that surprise?
That's incredible. So all I got to do is reposition my Facebook page, hire the right guy, makes me a soccer pro, and suddenly I get a university scholarship. I got the right pictures on my Facebook page.
It's
I got my
unbelievable.
scholarship. I got my podcast. I got my YouTube channel. I got all this stuff, and I'm absolutely nobody.
Right.
And it's all bullshit in the end.
Totally.
So take the guy who's noble, who's good. How do you get into the content business successfully today?
I think you have to really have an outline of what content you're going to control. If your funnel is really wide, you're not going to go very far. You have to control a niche, and that's what we did. I took a how-to approach from another magazine that was very successful that I was overseeing, and said, okay, let's apply that same how-to direction to the restaurant and bar industry. So we weren't a magazine that was talking about celebrities coming to a nightclub. I mean, that's just a general interest piece to me.
Mm-hmm.
To the average bar owner in the U.S., they're like, I'm not going to pay $50,000, $60,000 to have a celebrity come into my place. So we controlled the stories by breaking them down a little bit lower for them to understand how to do things like this, and a how-to approach, not just talking about the glam and the glitz. And we were going into things like, you know how hard it is to make a POS story look sexy compared to a cocktail story, but I didn't let that, I wasn't afraid of that. I was like, if it doesn't look sexy, but the content is amazing and it helps somebody choose the right POS system, then that's a great story to me.
It is. At the end of the day, it's engagement, but you raise a really interesting point. And so many people say, how do I start? How do I do this? I want to be in this business. And it could be a chef. It could be a mixologist. It could be somebody involved in anything that interests them. You have to have a narrow focus.
Yeah.
You almost have to format yourself a little bit, if you will. And, I've learned when I give seminars, and you've been in my speeches over the years and stuff, and whether I write something or do something, and I've written for you over the years, that what's the takeaway? When I'm finished reading this thing, do I feel like an idiot for wasting my 3 minutes reading it? Did I really get something out of it? How did it help me?
Right.
Did it make me smarter? Did it make me cooler? Did it make me more aware? How do I win by this? So when you apply your how-to mentality, that's where the win comes out.
Yeah.
So if I read this content, I leave with the knowledge and an ability of how to.
Right. And it's usually revenue. I want it to end with revenue. If we keep that, I keep that written on a board in my office. Every story should end with the person saying, I just understood how to apply this product to my business to make more revenue.
Yeah.
And if you take every story approach to that, you will stay within that laser focus. And as you keep growing, then you can start opening your funnel more because you've built a foundation. I think a lot of people fail because they're casting a net. It's just way too wide.
Right. And so it's interesting. I was talking about this with a friend the other night. Sequential programming is what we are in the business of, meaning the programming of the content that I read of yours this week better inspire me to read more next week.
Correct.
Or we're screwed. So it's sequential. Whether it's sequential in podcasts, I need you each week. Sequential in TV, I need you each week. Sequential in a product purchase, I want you to buy it every week. Or sequential in your magazine, I want you to make sure that you not only get it every month, but you read it every month, and it doesn't sit on your desk, because that doesn't serve anybody well. So sequential programming or content needs to be predictable, meaning I know there's going to be a benefit for me if I come back next week, but yet it's got to be individual and unique. So the challenge for sequential programming for all of us is, how do I make something that's predictable next week but different?
Right.
And they conflict with each other. If it's too different, then as you say, Art, it's all over the place. There's no predictability. You're not coming back. It's a mess.
Right.
If it's too predictable, it's boring as hell. You've heard this before. You're not coming back.
And they pass over you.
So how do I make it predictably new?
Yeah, and I think it's a rotation of topics that we put in there. So I never wanted just to be a cocktail magazine. I also didn't want to be a magazine that had 50 things in it. But I always said, if we can get a rotation of 10 topics in an issue, there's always something in there for one of my readers. Maybe he's not looking at doing his cocktail list right now, but maybe he's looking at furniture. So I better have something that's interior design related in there. Mm-hmm. So it was really harnessing that and having to revisit these stories and really put a different spin on it each time. And that's really hunkering down and knowing what the trends are. If you know the trends, then we can, listen, we've talked about furniture, POS, and we've been talking about this stuff for 5 years. The industry's elevating, but we always have to present the information differently. And when there's something new in there, make sure it's in there, because once it looks like a redo story, or somebody just, phones in and it looks like a story that was penned and it was like, oh, I kind of read something like that from those guys 2 years ago. That's it. That reader is gone.
I think that we're entering a world of curated content, meaning that, I envision that at a period of time from now, I'm going to be able to go to a site like yours, Bar Business, and I'll be able to say, these are the things that interest me. I'm interested in blue wallpaper. I'm interested in country music. I'm interested in table bases that don't wob, and I can click the 8 or 10 things that I'm interested in. And then the only times I'll ever hear from you during the next year is as it relates to those specific things. Is that a direction that you guys see yourselves going in?
Yeah, and we've started that. We've started breaking everything down by how-to, by furniture, technology, and now we're slowly starting to build those out. So we're kind of going in that direction where we're talking about, where now somebody can come and say, I only want to just read right now about interior design and furniture. And that's it. And they go to one category on my website, and every story that we've ever written is right there. Every press release, every company that's ever run something in our publication is right at their, click of the mouse. So I think you're right. I think that's where it is going. People want to curate and make their own personal experience when it comes to digesting information.
And getting their own curated content, if you will. I think that's going to change the world, and here's why. Let's go back to widgets. Let's say that your magazine has a key client selling widgets. So when I went to your website or your e-subscription services, I clicked on widgets. But I also went to 12 other magazine sites and clicked on widgets there too. And then I went to online retail companies and I clicked on just widgets there too. So now when I wake up in the morning and I turn on my computer, I've got every price from every widget all over the country. So now what happens is your widget has been diluted by everybody else who's got widgets.
Right.
So now what happens is we create this inherent competitive environment that now whenever I pull up widget, I'm going to see 10. I'm going to see the cheapest, the best, the different colors. I'm going to see all the different things. So now I think what happens is this concept of curated content. And this is where I get scared of companies, publishing companies, is when they start to curate their content on their own, then they don't need us. And that's what I worry about.
Right.
And what I see, and I'm going to ask you what your comments are on this. So what I see happening is I see companies like Anheuser-Busch wanting a direct relationship with the consumer. They want them signing up to their sites, interacting on their social media, and they don't want publishers to be the intermediaries anymore. They don't want publishers to have those lists. So every one of these companies is investing dollars now in direct relationships. How do you as a publisher overcome those kind of trends?
Well, I think when you look at that, I think every consumer wants to know, we're a third party, right? We're an independent. So when we're talking about a product, we vetted it, our editors have talked about it, they've presented stories to me. So I think when you're going direct to a company, they can give you whatever content they want direct from the company, but who at what company would say that they're not the best or this isn't the best product? So I think you always need the media there in between, almost as a stamp of approval to present products, because we're really a third-party individual who has no vested interest in that company, but we're presenting it in the right way to the consumer.
So when we do things like that, and I know from reading the magazine myself, I get an ad from a major vodka producer. He says to me, John, I'm going to buy an annual contract with you. I'm going to do 12 ads, 2-page ads, back cover, blah, blah, blah. Man, I'm salivating. It's a heck of a contract. But, John, I need an article or two on vodka. That's probably going to happen.
Oh, it happens all the time.
We know that.
All the time.
And, of course, that's the other thing that most publishers will tell you never happens. So now we write an article.
Well, they're straight up lying.
Of course
they're straight up lying.
So now we write a nice series on vodka. And you, as a good guy and an honest guy, make it a fair article. It's not all about that vodka.
Mm-hmm.
It's about older vodkas, younger vodkas, imported vodkas. So you create enough editorial substance so that it's a fair article about vodka.
Exactly.
But you won't not mention a competitive vodka, and you have to do it in an equitable way. But at the end of the day, I wonder if we didn't write that article, would that advertiser have advertised?
Well, so I think you have to. So we always have a minimum of 3 people in every article. Because if you do one just on one company, everyone looks at that and said, "Whoa, that might be sponsored content."
Yep.
And if there is sponsored content, we make sure we always have it partnered content, sponsored. I have walked away early in my career for some really big contracts. That was the beginning of bar business, and it was scary then because I wanted that contract, and I said no. They wanted to be on the cover, and they wanted a feature story, and they wanted all this stuff. And it's a major, I'm not going to mention the brand, but it's a major brewer.
But you'll destroy your magazine if you do that because all
Correct.
your credibility is gone. So here's my point. Remember Joe Blow, who's making his podcast? Little Joe now makes a vodka. He's got a few dollars. He makes his vodka. It's a damn good vodka. Wins a couple of gold medals in California and stuff. Right? He's got a nice bottle, a nice label. He's got a really good vodka. He doesn't have the money for that back page ad with you. So now you come to write your article. And I'm not beating on you, buddy. I'm just talking about
No.
Now you
not.
got to write your article. Yeah. You pick 3 vodkas for that article. Generally, no magazine is going to pick 3 vodkas that wouldn't potentially advertise because you got an opportunity to build a relationship with those 3 brands now. So Little Joe's vodka never makes that article.
Yeah, I hate hearing that, and so does my staff. But if you look in our pages, it's crazy. We write about Little Joe's vodka.
And I know you do.
And it's so hard because you are giving up a relationship with somebody who you could actually get revenue now from. But I look at it as there's so many products in our industry that you and I have walked a trade show and said that's a damn good product, and it never made it because nobody gave that person a voice because somebody else blocked it with revenue. Like that's like the big guy blocking all the little guys. Yeah. So you got to do it sometimes. And I think that's where I've kind of won, when I go to these trade shows, I'm so approachable to people saying like, I want to present something to you. And they straight up tell me up front, they're like, I don't have a budget. And I'm like, whoa, I don't even know why we're talking about budget yet because you're supposed to present your product to me. I haven't even tasted it yet. Yeah. So you really have to do, it's a dance. It's a fine line dance because you can't forget about your big advertisers and you have to always keep track of their trends and what they're doing. But you always have to balance it because if your magazine was always big companies that advertise, I guarantee you people would stop reading my publication in a year. They'd say, I see the same brands. They pay art.
Of course.
There's no value here to me. And that's the same thing why I've never... there have been brands that have said, hey, if you get us into these big places, we'll pay you. And I've backed away from every deal on that. Because the minute I tell a bar owner to put something in his bar and I'm lining my pocket, he'll never believe me again.
So how do we come to reason with the lack of trust in media today? And I'm not getting political per se with you and stuff, buddy, but I'm saying, so I read this magazine, I see the big ads, I see the big articles. You're exactly right. You're noble. You're well-intended. Right, so you're doing this in the right way, but there's still the filter of advertisers.
Yep.
Still the filters, of all these things, and advertisers can also, say, I don't want this, and I do want this, and keeping it honest is a fight for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's a struggle, and what we try to do is we try to talk to the end user. That's how we know we're vetting a product. So if we see, let's say, a great piece of kitchen equipment, and I start speaking to my editorial staff, and I say, okay, guys. I really want to see an article, for kitchen equipment. I'm seeing some really cool trends with this company. Let's call this company. And we don't want to just interview them. We want to actually talk to some of the end users I need to see examples that a medium-sized bar owner is creating great revenue and great food through this piece of equipment. So I think sometimes you need that end user's feedback and not always go to the companies because, like I said, what company's not going to say I have the best piece of kitchen equipment in the world?
Yeah. Do you think there'll be hardcover magazines 10 years from now?
I get this question all the time.
I know, it's the obvious one.
And no, I mean, it's we do surveys for specific reasons. I think consumers are going to have a tough time. I think people are, consumer publications, they're getting consumed in a totally different way. They're getting consumed through Facebook articles, social media. People are getting on e-newsletters.
Right.
They're reading digital publications.
Articles travel on their own and not in a magazine anymore.
Correct. So it's totally separate. But I think B2B we're finding is I do a survey all the time. Listen, magazines are expensive. The post office,
Oh, yeah.
they shake us down for additional postage all the time. We survey our readers. There is a hardcore group of people within my industries that will never want to see the print magazine go away. Do I know how long that's going to last? I don't know. But it seems right now that B2B there's an opportunity for print because they're educational resources, right? People are putting them in their hand and saying, okay, how can I make more money today? And it gets hard to go to a trade show. How do I hand all this stuff out to people that are new readers?
Yeah.
So doing as many trade shows as we do and me appearing in so many places, the print magazine follows. It's a struggle, though. It's a different business. And if you don't watch it, you'll get consumed by it.
I bet it's really a challenge today. So, we created a Taffer Tavern. I don't know if you heard about it. We created Taffer's Tavern. It's a new franchise. We became legal. We filed our franchise paperwork about a month ago. We've sold Atlanta, Clearwater, Tampa, Long Island, New Jersey, the 4 boroughs.
I was just going to say,
Manhattan.
sign me up. You got someone in Jersey yet?
Yeah, it's New Jersey, the 4 boroughs of Manhattan.
Cool.
4 boroughs of Manhattan and Orange County. And it's interesting that you were talking about it because when we look at the industry is going to a place of $15 an hour plus.
Correct.
The industry is going to a place of no labor pool. So even if I pay somebody $18 an hour, to try to find somebody to work on my line is not so easy.
No.
So we're now dealing with an industry where we don't have the labor, and the labor costs is going to go up 50 to 100% higher than we're used to. Tough model.
Horrible. It's almost a horrible model that we're running into.
Scary as hell. And what business can sustain a 50% increase in labor cost and survive? So we have to raise prices. We have to change it. So we created Taffer Tavern, which is all sous vide cooking.
Nice.
So sous vide cooking is really high quality
Sure.
products, cryovac in plastic bags and cooked in water at particular temperatures and then finished on grill.
So ventless. So you not
It's completely ventless. It's all sous vide. So you take product 9, you put it in oven 4, you hit code 21. It's a combi oven. It cooks it, it crisps it, prepares it perfectly. Everything is fresh. Comes out of sous vide kitchens every 3 days.
And if anybody's listening that has never experienced that, the food is good.
Oh, it's really
so
good.
Some people start shaking their head because they hear this, and I'm sure there's listeners right now that are like, "What are they talking about?" This is the real. I have gone to ventless kitchens and what you're talking about, and I have had a meal, and I'm like, "This is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is great."
Oh, yeah. So what we'll do is they'll do something like take a raspberry duck. They'll cook it flawlessly. Really high-quality product, season it flawlessly, and they'll cryovac it in a bag. They ship it. It's fresh, right? And then you take it. If that duck should be served at 160 degrees, it's put in a water oven of circulating water at exactly 160 degrees. You drop the duck in the water, it stays in the circulator. It can't get burnt. It'll never be 170 degrees, Art,
right.
and it won't be 150 degrees. It'll be 100. Now you open up that duck. It's cooked in its own juices. It's delicious. It's cooked to the perfect temperature. You drop it in the oven, you char it and finish it off, and you have the most perfect duck you've ever had. So sous vide, you're right, is quality. So what we're trying to model is $1 million in revenue for every single person in the kitchen.
Right. You need less. So there's less people in the kitchen to begin with. So your overhead is down.
Bingo. Product lasts twice as long on the shelf because it's wrapped the way it is. So the whole concept of what we're trying to create is to create this premise that the future of food is not chefs. The future of food is technology.
Agreed.
The chef thing has played its course. I'm not discounting chefs. They make great. But the fact of the matter is the days of 6 guys on a cooking line, 4 bartenders behind the bar, everything from scratch, those days, economically can't possibly survive.
Yeah, because the only people that are doing those footprints are guys with big money behind them. So what happens to the rest of the industry, which is the larger part of the industry, which is the small to medium-sized business owner?
Yeah.
And if we don't make changes like this, there's not going to be a place for them because it's only going to be these big hospitality companies that are going to be opening up these chains and franchises and locations.
If there's somebody listening who'd love to be Art Sutley, who says, "Man, I'd love to run a magazine and be the face of an industry and have these relationships and be in this content business," how would you tell him to do it?
Oh man, a lot of sleepless nights, that's for sure. I mean,
would you join a publishing company and learn the business? What would you recommend?
So, I mean, my path was, and this is honest, I'll tell you my true story.
Yeah.
My family was a member of a country club.
Okay.
I was a caddy.
Okay.
I was a caddy for the owner of this company. And we started talking, and he was like, hey, you need an internship? And meanwhile, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
I was a little bit of a wild child in college, and I said, I need every chance I can get. So I took an internship, and I ran with it. And, he gave me a really amazing opportunity. And I am still working for the same publishing company that I started as the intern of. I'm now overseeing multiple publications. So I'm basically a group publisher, essentially, for the company. And I just put my head down and I just worked.
Wow.
I just worked and I sold, because that is how you stand out. I sold advertising. I went above and beyond. I was sometimes connecting people, customers, with advertisers. And instead of just selling an ad and walking away, and this is one thing that all my advertisers will tell you to this day, I walk people over to a booth. They come into my booth and they say, Art, a huge fan. I was reading this story. I'm having trouble, with my draft sales. I need something to get my draft sales up. I'm like, great. You know what? I know a sangria that's a draft sangria that will make you the talk of the town. Let me walk you over to these guys. And I walk them over to that brand. And that is, I think, the difference of saying, don't just be a publisher. Don't just be an ad sales guy. Just don't be an editor. Be somebody that makes connections. And actually, you told me this a long time ago. Relationships are key.
Yeah,
and if you keep the good ones forever and make sure you don't, listen, I do no bad to anybody. Even if I don't like their product, I just don't talk about it.
Right.
I don't ever badmouth anybody.
Yeah, nobody says a bad word about you.
It's not, not that I've heard, I guess, right? But I think that's what you have to do. You have to be a connector and you have to have relationships. Your black book is what makes you successful. And I've tried to build a really great black book, and it's led me to do things that, John, going on Bar Rescue was from us knowing each other in the beginning to saying, oh my God, like now I'm doing recon on Bar Rescue, or getting a call from the Wall Street Journal and my publicist saying, hey, they want to talk to you about trends. That was crazy to me at first. I didn't see originally my path was be the best magazine that I could be. And during that time, I became better and a better relationship with all my, customers and things like that. And that's where it kind of led me down this amazing path. It's not easy in publishing.
No, it isn't.
And you got to take your knocks and walk away.
What you did is you got yourself in the middle of the industry.
Yep.
And
Well,
as
you
the
helped
middle
with
of
that.
the industry-
You helped with that a lot.
Oh, thank you, buddy. But you did a great job with this. But I'll tell you, though, when you think about the future of bars, where do you think we're going? I think we're going in smaller bars, more neighborhood bars. I think the big mega bars are over.
No, I don't see the big club thing. We're sitting here in Vegas and it works here, right? Because people fly in here for that. If
But
you're
even
not,
here, it's not doing what it should.
no, they're doing smaller footprints for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
And they're doing higher price tables and things like that.
And
And
how many times can you see Tiesto, for Christ's sakes?
That's why people aren't paying the big money anymore for the big DJs. They've seen Tiesto. And listen, some of those tables are going for $25,000
Crazy.
minimum. Now, if you get a group of guys and you do that once, are you going to go do that again to go see the same DJ? Probably not. So I see.
And it's special. But when he's back every Friday, it isn't so special anymore.
No, I know. So I see it going to more entertainment, personalized entertainment. And I was just last year, I was out at a club here, and everything came to my table. The signs and the guys with the light up drummers came to my table. So it was more personalized entertainment. I wasn't looking at the DJ anymore. I was looking at what was happening right in front of me, and it was personalized. And this kind of feeds into what we talked about before about them wanting to feel relevant. Customers, 5,000 people were looking at my table.
It's all about you at that moment.
Correct. So I'm 39. Some people at my table were 25. They were they had their cameras out, and someone turned to me and like, "You're not going to take any pictures of this?" And I said, "Man, I'm just numb to this now. I'm glad you're having a great time, but that was relevant for them. They were taking pictures of themselves with this. Not saying it was my table or somebody else's table. They were there. That's all they cared about."
What do you think happens to all these legacy brands?
Well, they're having I'm in some meetings with some of the brands. They're nervous.
They're terrified.
Yeah, because some of the brands that they thought would never go away are really not cool anymore.
No.
And they're talking about how to revive that. And I don't even know if it's possible, because I think there's so many good, amazing new brands that are out there that have caught that younger drinker or that new imbiber. It's going to be tough.
I think so, too.
Listen, my grandfather drank Dewar's. I mean, I don't see anybody order Dewar's anymore.
No. When I was young, Dewar's was an extremely popular scotch.
Yeah.
Do you remember the slogan of Dewar's?
I can't remember.
The scotch that never varies.
Oh, yes. Right. You're right.
It was the slogan of Dewar's. I guess those things don't matter much
No,
anymore.
and I think the bigger, importers and distillers, they're looking at buying some of these brands to bring them into their portfolio because they got to balance it. Because right now they're sitting on a lot of products.
You know what worries me? And this is a great note to end on, Art. When you think about people who have no respect for legacy brands, they then not have respect for legacy things. They then start to disrespect previous values, previous behaviors, previous interpretations of what going to work model was, of what a family model would be, of what, a relationship of a brother. Everything changes.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's bad or good, but what it does is it puts us in such uncharted waters in every way of our lives.
Totally.
Because the past doesn't mean as much as it used to.
No.
Do you find that unsettling? Because I do a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess I'm in that. I guess with my family coming up and how close we are and the way I've been raised, that is completely uncharted territory for me. And, I'm learning it. I'm trying to, understand that. But, man, history to me is kind of what your foundations build on. And that gives you the look to the end of the tunnel. Now, if we look down the end of the tunnel, we really don't know what that light is.
No, it's
different.
the truth. And I always say a bar is a snapshot of America. Right, the second public building ever built in America was a bar. The first was a church. There were no town halls or city halls or meeting rooms. Right, business was done in bars.
Right.
So bars are a snapshot of America. When you walk into a bar today, loyalty to product is different. Loyalty to all these things are different, and it becomes much more of a eclectic type of a place, which I guess is what America's become.
Yeah. Well, look at the front back bar nowadays. It's not the brands that you and I know. No. They're all on the back now.
Yeah.
And there's all of these new brands in the front because that's what people are pulling.
So, in essence, what we're saying is history is really taking a back seat to today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's such a great thing, are you?
No, it's scary to me.
Yeah. Listen, buddy, it's been great to have you.
Oh, my God, this has been a blast.
You're a good friend. So if you haven't seen Bar Business Magazine, tell everybody where they can find the site. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so for social media, BarBizMag. And then for our website, barbizmag.com. If you're in the industry, it's a free subscription. If you're not in the industry and you just like news about what's going on, you can just read on our website. We have a digital magazine as well. All digital products.
And you can follow Art Sutley as he travels around the country, going from convention to convention, pitching about the bar business. You're almost like the vagabond of the bar industry.
I know. I need a Taffer time machine to get me around to each of these cities and make life a lot easier,
Cheers, buddy. Great to have you.
Thank you so much.
And when I come back, it'll be time for In the Dark. And before I go, don't forget, hit subscribe at Apple Podcasts. Go to podcast1.com or the Podcast One app. And you'll get your new episodes every Tuesday. I'll be right back. Cool.
Oh, it was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Cool. Yeah, this is a great. I like the job. This is a great gig you got here. You get to interview people. I mean, you must love it.
I do.
Because you're.
And then I have a mobile kit that I do on the road, so I'll do it on the road, and I can link to Corey here, and then we'll Skype people in. So for example, Damon was here.
Yeah.
But some other people, we just Skype them right through.
That's perfect.
And then he'll redo the content for the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was always hoping that we could do it in person because I always feel like when we see one another, I can see your reaction. I can almost know when you're about to throw it back to me, and I'm saying, okay, no, I got to be ready. So
it could be a little awkward what we do it online. But if you love my No Excuses podcast, hit subscribe at Apple Podcasts. Go to podcast1.com or the Podcast One app, and you'll get your new episodes every Tuesday morning.